What if the moment you forgot your grandson's name wasn't just forgetfulness, but the beginning of losing yourself? What if every time you walked into a room and didn't know why, a piece of your identity quietly slipped away? And what if the key to reversing it wasn't a pill or a doctor, but something you already have within you, waiting to be awakened in just 3 minutes a day? There was a moment I wish I could forget, but ironically, it's the one memory that won't leave me. I was sitting alone in my living room when my daughter called, her voice sharp with hurt. "Dad, why weren't you at Ethan's game? He was looking for you." My stomach dropped. I had no excuse. I had completely forgotten. Not the time, not the date, the entire promise. That night, I didn't sleep. I lay in bed replaying that silence in my grandson's voice, the kind of silence that doesn't shout, it withdraws. That was the night I realized something far deeper than forgetfulness was happening. I wasn't just misplacing keys or blanking on words. I was losing pieces of myself. Thanks for joining us here on Voice of Age, a warm space for real talk about life and heart in our later years. You see, it doesn't begin with dramatic memory loss. It sneaks in. First, I'd walk into a room and forget why I came. Then I'd lose track of simple details. Had I fed the dog? Did I already take my medication? I laughed it off at first, the way we do when we're afraid to face what's real. Old age, I said. It's normal. But deep down, I felt the shift, like a fog had settled over me, like my mind wasn't mine anymore, but something I had to chase, piece by piece, thought by thought. If you've ever looked at a familiar face and had to search for the name, or if you've stood staring at the fridge trying to remember why you opened it, then you know. You know that cold wash of frustration, that quiet panic. And most of all, the shame. The silent kind that doesn't ask for sympathy, only space to hide. It's easy to believe this is just how it goes, that memory fades the way muscle tone does, or hearing or vision, that it's the toll we pay for time. But what if that's only part of the story? What if there's something we've missed, something simple, overlooked, and profoundly powerful, hiding in plain sight? Before we go further, if you've ever felt this creeping fog in your own life, I invite you to support this channel. Hit that subscribe button, give us a like, and share this with someone who might need it. That small action helps us keep making videos that matter. For people like you, who still believe in showing up fully, no matter the age. Back to that night. The night I forgot Ethan's game. It wasn't just the forgetting that broke me. It was the realization that I had stopped expecting more from myself, that I had quietly accepted this decline as irreversible. But something in me, even in that low moment, refused to let go. I remembered my father's last years, how he faded away not just physically, but mentally. I had once whispered, "I don't want to end up like that." And here I was, halfway down the same path. That was when I understood. It wasn't just about memory. It was about identity, about staying connected to the people I love, to the world around me, and most of all, to myself. I didn't want my future to be made of reminders, sticky notes, and apologies. I wanted to wake up, remember, engage, laugh, be present. But I didn't know how. Not yet. What came next changed everything. And it began not with a prescription, not with a machine or a supplement, but with something much smaller. Something so simple it almost felt silly. But it brought me back, one breath at a time. And in the next part of this story, I'll tell you exactly what that was. It happened one quiet morning, the kind where the sun drips slowly through the curtains and everything feels still. I was sitting by the window, nursing a cup of lukewarm coffee, lost in thought. I didn't hear Emma walk in at first, my granddaughter, home from college for spring break. She's 21 now, studying psychology at UCLA, sharp as ever. She looked at me for a while before speaking. "Grandpa, you've seemed a little distant lately." I smiled, trying to deflect. "I'm just getting older, that's all." But she didn't let it go. "Have you ever tried mindful breathing?" I raised an eyebrow. "Breathing? I do that every day, don't I?" But she explained it wasn't about the act itself, it was about the attention. She told me how just 3 minutes a day could begin to shift the fog in my mind. 3 minutes? That's it? I laughed. I thought she might be exaggerating. But she sat beside me gently with a confidence that only young people carry when they truly believe in something. "Let me show you," she said. So, right there on the couch, she guided me. I sat with my feet flat on the floor, back supported, hands resting on my thighs. Close your eyes, she said softly. Now breathe in through your nose, slowly, and breathe out through your mouth. Don't force it, just notice it. She told me that if my mind wandered, all I had to do was gently bring it back to the breath, like leading a child back home. And if it helps, she added, picture something peaceful, like a lake at dawn or the sound of wind in the trees. That first time, it felt awkward. My thoughts jumped from one thing to another, what I'd eat for lunch, whether I'd remembered to call Mike back, what day it even was. But something in the simplicity of it, the quiet discipline of sitting and breathing, felt grounding. It wasn't dramatic, it wasn't instant, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't chasing thoughts. I was just there. I didn't expect much. I told Emma I'd try it for a few days, mostly to humor her. But a part of me, though small, was hopeful. Because when you felt yourself fading, even a thread of possibility is worth holding on to. Each morning after that, before I picked up my phone, before turning on the news, I sat in the same chair. 3 minutes. Just me and my breath. No pressure, no expectations. I didn't know it then, but those 3 minutes were the beginning of something much bigger. They were the first steps back to a part of myself I thought I had lost. And though I didn't realize it yet, this small act was about to open a door I thought had long been closed. It didn't happen all at once. There was no grand moment, no blinding clarity. The changes crept in quietly, so gently that I nearly missed them, but they were real. One morning, I opened the refrigerator and, without hesitation, reached for the almond milk. I didn't stand there wondering why I had come. I didn't scan every shelf as if searching for a memory. I just remembered. It was small, almost insignificant, but I noticed. A few days later, my wife asked if I could pick up a few things from the store: bread, apples, coffee, and peanut butter. Normally, I'd write it down, or worse, ask her to text it to me. But that day, I took a deep breath, repeated the list silently, and walked out the door. 20 minutes later, I returned with every item and something more. Confidence. A quiet but unmistakable sense that I could still depend on myself. That feeling began to ripple through other moments. At dinner, I didn't zone out in the middle of conversations. When friends visited, I remembered stories we'd shared weeks ago. I no longer dreaded small talk for fear of going blank. The fog that had followed me for months began to lift, slowly but surely. And in its place, clarity returned. But what struck me most was how this clarity restored something even deeper than memory: connection. One afternoon, Emma mentioned an upcoming exam. A week later, without prompting, I asked her how it went. Her face lit up with surprise. "You remembered?" she asked. I nodded. Of course. That moment, that look in her eyes, it meant more than words could say. I wasn't just her grandfather again. I was present. I was engaged. I mattered. It's easy to dismiss memory loss as a private battle, but it's not. When we begin to forget, it's not only our world that dims, it's the world we share with others. We stop asking questions. We shy away from conversations. We shrink. But when memory returns, even in fragments, it invites us back into the lives of those we love. And they feel it too. My mornings began to feel different. I woke up lighter, more alert, no longer dragging myself into the day. My sleep grew deeper. My laughter returned. My wife told me, "You're making jokes again." I hadn't even realized I'd stopped. And just like that, I started remembering old songs, childhood stories, even the name of my first pet, details I thought had vanished for good. Each recollection felt like a piece of me coming home. The person I feared I was losing was still here. He had just been waiting, quietly, for me to return. And now, step by step, breath by breath, I was. I didn't expect to become curious about the science. At first, all I cared about was whether I could remember my daughter's birthday or hold on to the thread of a conversation. But once the changes started happening, I couldn't help but wonder, why was something so simple making such a difference? It turns out the answer had been quietly waiting inside me all along, written not in mystery or miracle, but in the biology of the aging brain. The brain, as it turns out, doesn't simply shut down with age. That's a myth we've been told, and many of us have believed it for far too long. In truth, the brain remains dynamic. It adapts, it can grow, it can heal. This capacity is called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to form new neural connections even in later years. And that simple practice of focused breathing I'd stumbled into, it was gently awakening that capacity. When you breathe slowly and mindfully, your body responds in remarkable ways. Your heartbeat steadies, your blood pressure softens. Most importantly, your blood becomes more richly oxygenated, and your brain, this intricate, hungry organ, thrives on oxygen. It's like pouring clean water on dry soil. That oxygen rush fuels the neurons responsible for memory, focus, and emotional regulation. But it's more than just chemistry. There's a shift in presence, in attention. When we take time to breathe deeply, we stop moving through life on autopilot. We start paying attention, not just to our breath, but to what's happening inside and around us. That state of focus lights up areas of the brain that often go dormant when we're distracted or overwhelmed, specifically the hippocampus and the prefrontal cortex. These are the regions tied to memory, decision-making, and clarity of thought. And like muscles, they respond to use. We lose them not because we age, but because we stop using them. I read about a study from Harvard where older adults were asked to practice short daily mindfulness exercises, just like what Emma had shown me. After just 8 weeks, their memory improved measurably. But even more fascinating, their brains physically changed. Scans showed increased activity in areas that had once gone quiet. It was like light returning to rooms that had long been dark. And perhaps just as importantly, these same practices reduce stress. When we live in a constant hum of anxiety or fear, of forgetting, of slipping, of becoming a burden, our bodies produce cortisol, a hormone that actively interferes with memory formation. But when we slow down, breathe, and center ourselves, we interrupt that cycle. We make space for thought, for calm, for recall. What struck me most was this. I didn't need medication, gadgets, or a library of techniques. I just needed to return to something as basic as breath. And by doing that, just a few minutes a day, I was doing something powerful. I wasn't just helping my brain remember. I was reminding it how to live. I've come to believe that the greatest threat to aging isn't the body breaking down. It's the quiet surrender of the mind. Not the kind that happens overnight, but the subtle kind. The kind that settles in when we begin to believe there's no point in trying. I've seen it happen to people I care about. People who were once vibrant, witty, full of life, who now move through their days with the dim flicker of someone simply enduring time, not living it. My friend Walter was one of them. We used to play chess at the park every Saturday. He was sharp, sometimes even ruthless on the board. But after his wife passed, and then after he retired, something in him dimmed. He'd often forget whose move it was. Then he stopped coming altogether. When I called, he told me, "There's no use, Charlie. My mind's not what it used to be." And that was that. He'd made a quiet agreement with decline. Another friend, Joyce, used to lead book clubs at the library. She was a force, opinionated, articulate, alive. But somewhere along the way, she began second-guessing herself. She told me she was afraid of losing her words mid-sentence, of embarrassing herself. So she withdrew. "It's easier not to speak," she said. And just like that, another voice grew quiet. What I've realized is that many of us don't lose our abilities because of aging. We lose them because we stop using them. We stop pushing, stop exploring, stop challenging ourselves to learn or engage or show up fully. That's not just aging, that's resignation. Passive aging is what happens when we believe the world no longer needs us and we no longer ask anything of ourselves. It's when we stop reaching for new experiences because we fear failure, or worse, because we think we no longer deserve them. But there's another way. Active aging isn't about running marathons or taking up extreme sports. It's about refusing to step away from life. It's about choosing, even in small ways, to stay involved with ourselves, with others, with the world. Reading a chapter of a book each night, asking someone a question we don't know the answer to, sitting quietly and paying attention to the breath, to a bird on the windowsill, to the sound of rain. The older I get, the more I understand this isn't about fighting age. It's about honoring it, by remaining present inside of it, by refusing to treat ourselves like we're finished. That little voice that tells us you're too old to try, that's not wisdom, that's fear. And the only way to quiet it is to do the opposite, to try, to begin, to step into something unfamiliar. The people I admire most at this stage of life aren't the ones who've avoided struggle. They're the ones who've stayed curious, who've said yes to life, even when it didn't come easy, who understand that the light inside us doesn't burn out. It just needs us to keep it lit. When something begins to change you from the inside, it's hard to keep it to yourself. At first, I didn't speak much about what I was experiencing. It felt personal, almost fragile. This quiet return of clarity, this slow reawakening of memory and presence. But as the days went on, I started to notice that it wasn't just my thoughts that were shifting. My relationships were too. Conversations grew deeper. I laughed more. My wife said I had that old glint in my eyes again. And when you begin to feel yourself come back to life, you want others to feel it too. So I started sharing. At first, just with friends at the local senior center, during card games, morning walks, while waiting in line for coffee. Have you ever tried just sitting still and breathing for 3 minutes a day? I'd ask. Most looked puzzled. Some smiled politely. A few rolled their eyes. But a handful listened, truly listened. There was Helen, 78, a widow who confessed that lately she couldn't finish a sentence without losing her train of thought. She started practicing each morning, sitting on her porch with the sunrise. 3 weeks later, she told me she remembered her daughter's birthday for the first time in years, without a calendar or a phone reminder. It felt like a part of me came back, she said, her voice soft, almost reverent. Then there was Armand, 84, once a school principal, now often silent at family gatherings. He told me he feared speaking because he didn't want to forget what he was saying mid-sentence. After a month of mindful breathing, he sat with his great-granddaughter and told her a full story from his childhood without once pausing in confusion. She listened like I was wise again, he said, his eyes wet. Not everyone stuck with it. Some tried a few times and gave up. They said it felt pointless. I didn't feel anything, they told me, but that's just it. This isn't magic. It's a seed, and like any seed, it needs care. You water it daily, not because it blooms on day one, but because you believe in what it will become. The ones who continued, who gave themselves permission to be patient, began to change, not just in memory, but in spirit. They became more connected, more joyful, more alive. What struck me most was how this small act of care didn't just affect the individual, it lifted the room. When someone remembers your name, when they truly listen, when they look you in the eye with clarity, you feel seen. And that, in itself, is healing. This isn't just about saving memory. It's about reclaiming dignity, connection, and presence. It's about lighting a small fire within ourselves and letting it warm those around us. If a few minutes of breath can do that, imagine what we can all give each other when we choose to show up. Fully alive. Summary and reflection. Growing older often comes with the fear of losing one's memory, identity, and connection to others. But this story reminds us that decline is not always inevitable. It is sometimes a result of disconnection, of passivity, of quietly stepping back from life. Through the gentle, consistent practice of just 3 minutes of mindful breathing each day, one man found his way back, not just to his memory, but to himself. What began as a simple act became a doorway to clarity, dignity, and renewed relationships. Science supports what this man experienced firsthand. Our brains remain capable of growth and healing, even in our later years. Neuroplasticity, improved oxygenation, and reduced stress all play vital roles in restoring memory and presence. But beyond science, this is a story of human choice. The choice to show up, to stay curious, and to believe that something so small can make a difference. This is not a miracle story. It's a reminder that the things that bring us back to life are often simple, quiet, and available to us at any age. All it takes is breath, attention, and the willingness to begin again, day by day. A life lesson worth applying. The most powerful takeaway from this journey is that consistency beats intensity. You don't need a radical transformation overnight. You only need a commitment to small, daily care. Try setting aside just 3 minutes each morning to sit, breathe, and be fully present with yourself. You might be surprised at what begins to return. Question for you. Have you ever tried a small daily habit that helped you feel more connected or clear-minded? If so, what was it? Please share your answer in the comments below. Your insight could inspire someone else who's just beginning this path. And if you found value in this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video to support the channel. Your encouragement helps us keep bringing meaningful content to this community.